there is a very special type of cable called a rollover cable, or sometimes called a rolled cable. It is what it sounds like. It is rolled over. So pin 1 goes to pin 8, pin 2 to pin 7, pin 3 to pin 6, and so on, so that these are exactly flipped. And these are Cisco cables. They are usually this sort of light blue color. You notice that there's a slight difference between these two. The older ones a little bit darker blue, and they have this RS-232 jack, and then the RJ45, and then the newer ones have the USB port and the RJ45. I have one here. This is the older style. It's got the RS-232 on it like that. I do have one of these with the USB, but it's currently plugged into my switch. The switch that I use on this computer as well as other computers in my house. So I can't show it to you unless I unplug it, but what I'd rather do is show you how it works. Now these things are going to plug into the port called the console port on the switch. Let me get a switch here. Okay, here's a switch. You see all the ports on the front side, and then on the back side we've got one that says, if I can get this where the camera is, get down there, console. So that's the console port. And the RS-232 jack would fit into the console port, and then on older computers, this RS-232, did I say RS-230? The RJ45, and then the RS-232 would go into the older computers, newer computers. This end, the RJ45, would go into the console port, and the USB into the computer. This is the setup that I have right now on my machine that you're looking at right now. Alright, once I got that in, I'm going to call up something called PuTTY. There are other programs that do this as well. These are terminal programs. So TTY for terminal. And what I'm going to do is make a serial connection here. And I have found that usually these RS-232 types will be on COM1, but for the USB type, it's usually either COM3 or COM4. On my computer, it happens to be COM4. So serial connection on COM4, speed 9600, and I'm going to say open. And here's the window, and I am now talking to this switch. And I can now type in my commands and so forth. Now this isn't the only way that we have to connect and configure a switch or a router. There are other ways as well, and one of them is this way. On the back of the computer, I can just plug in a standard straight through cable and go from the computer, the RJ45 plug on the computer, directly into one of these ports on the switch or a router, and now I can configure this thing through that, either through telnetting or through SSH if I want it to be encrypted. Now this requires some configuration, and I don't have that configuration set up right now, but I do have a port going from this computer to my switch because I'm running this computer off of a switch right now. So because I'm running the computer off the switch, I would have that capability, except that I don't have it set up to Telnet or SSH. But I can demonstrate what it would look like. So if I'm telnetting, I would click Other here and choose Telnet, and then I would have to have an IP address. Now that means I have to configure a management IP address on this switch. Now normally switches don't deal with IP addresses, but if you want to telnet to it, you have to put a management IP address on it. So here would be a management IP address I might have on that switch, and if I click open, then I could go ahead and configure this switch. Now you'll notice I'm not configuring right now. It's going to time out because I do not have a management IP address on this switch right now. The other option I would have would be SSH, and this takes even more configuration before I could do it. I just heard that it timed out. So 192.168.0.1, so I would have to have my IP address on there and SSH set up, including a domain name, a username, a password, RSA keys, and so forth. And once I get all that set up, then I could SSH to this thing in the same way that I attempted to telnet to it. And I would simply click open at this point, and it would connect to my switch, which it's not going to do because I don't have that set up. So those are the ways that we can configure a switch. Now, of course, the first time you would have to use this console port until you set it up for either telnetting or SSHing to it.